Hello and what is up, French Horn Rescue family? It's so great to have you guys here today. How do we improve the quality of our articulation? And actually, shout out to my student Lori C, who I was actually teaching her the other day, and I was going over some of these concepts with her based on some of the stuff that we had been working on in her articulation, and it actually inspired me to do this talk today. So, hello, Lori. I hope that you are well if you're watching this. So, probably the best advice that I ever got regarding articulation in general was from Adam Wadsworth, who is now at the University of Northwestern. And what he told me in a lesson one time was he said that articulation is 90% air. And this is kind of the reverse of how a lot of people think of things. A lot of people think about using a lot of tongue to really get the notes going. And when I think about my articulation really being driven by the air and having it being that 90% ratio, it just really works a lot better. So how a lot of people, if I were to have you air it out, which is what I call it when I just put the air out as if I was going to go playing like this, that's like how I really want the air to be. It's actually very little tongue. The tongue is not moving a whole lot. The tongue is really not I'm not hitting the roof of the mouth or the teeth very hard. I'm allowing the air to come through my chops still really nice and easily. So a lot of people, like when Lori was doing this the other day when I was working with her, when we were first starting, it was more like, and she was trying to use a lot of tongue and just really just make the tongue driving the articulation instead of the air driving the articulation. And then once she started to have the air really be what's moving the tongue and having the air still being what is making the horn resonate, then like the sound just really opened up for her and it really just helped everything to move a lot more quickly as well. And she was doing an exercise that had to do with 16th notes, just static 16th notes, and just everything just got way easier for her. She felt like a lot less tension in the playing, and the sound just really increased in terms of the quality as she was going up and down the range. So that I find really helpful. So that is the number one thing that will help you to get some articulation clarity. So no matter how fast you're going, even if I am going in 16th notes, I'm thinking about using the same air that I would use for a long tone. If I was going to go a little bit more on the staccato side, even there, I'm still thinking about the air traveling. I'm still thinking about the air traveling. If I was holding my horn, I would be thinking about it traveling to at least where I'm holding the instrument in my hand. And for every horn, it's going to be a little bit different, so it might not be exactly the same spot in every instrument, but that's usually where I start with most students, and it tends to work pretty well. And so if I just think about the air traveling a little bit further still, even for those staccato notes, and really thinking more in terms of how would I use this air if I was going to just play a long note, a whole note, or longer, things tend to work a lot better and just really let the air drive the tongue rather than the tongue drive the air. All right, so that is the first thing. And the second thing that we were working on that I think is pretty helpful is to, in general, use less tongue. So what I mean by this is a lot of people try to use a very wide space in their mouth, in the tongue. So in other words, to get a little bit graphic per se, they try to use like the whole wide part of the tongue. And this can work for some players if you have a very wide mouth. However, for a lot of players that I encounter who are struggling with getting particularly a faster articulation, using such a wide part of the tongue actually slows things down quite a bit. So if you think about just using a smaller, like this way, smaller surface area of the mouth, or the tongue, sorry, in the mouth, maybe more like that. God, this is the video is flipped, so it's like always really weird for me to demonstrate this to myself. Yeah, so I have to just, like, close my eyes and just do it. That's a little easier for me. So if you do that and you just think about using a little bit of a smaller surface area in terms of like the horizontal, things will tend to move a lot faster, and you're actually going to be moving less of the tongue as well. So that is another thing. And when you're airing it out, you'll hear it. So if you go to air it out and you use a really wide tongue, you can just hear it. Just the tongue is moving a lot slower, and not as much air is going to be coming into the instrument. which is going to be an issue. It's going to cause the sound to not resonate as well. And of course, as we go higher, as I've talked about all the time, we need to use less air, higher compression air. But even so, we still do need a certain amount of volume. And if we're not getting that volume, it's not going to make the horn resonate well, and it's not going to lead to the clarity that you're looking for. So that is the second thing. And then the third thing is something that a lot of horn players would probably disagree with me about, but I have found that for most students, I find that the most beneficial tongue position for articulation is to generally allow the tongue to rest just below the teeth, the bottom teeth here. So in other words, it's going to kind of have this sort of shape, and I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but the tongue is going to be somewhere like this, where the tongue is just resting right behind the tip of the teeth. And so in the trumpet playing world, they call this anchor tonguing. But I don't really like that term, because to me, anchor implies something very rigid. And so when, like when you're on a boat and you drop the anchor, you are hoping that the anchor is going to keep you in the same place and just keep you locked in. And the tongue still needs to be very loose, because a loose muscle is a fast muscle. And so when we're allowing the tip of the tongue to just rest very easily back here, behind the teeth, it's going to allow you to actually articulate like this. And you'll notice that it's a very small motion. Versus if what a lot of people do is, like, the classic way that most people are taught with articulation is, right, starting around the teeth, possibly for certain notes, and maybe a little bit higher for higher notes. So you see it's a lot more motion than if we just go like this. So, and to me, it allows things to speak a lot more quickly and a lot cleaner. And yeah, try it out. If it works for you, that's cool. And if not, it's all good. I find that for my students, it works pretty well. So you may need actually to work with somebody who has more experience with this to really get it to work for you. However, I find it to be pretty effective for a couple of reasons. And one of them is just that the tongue stays in this nice ramp position. So the air is able to just really easily still come down the ramp of the tongue, and still really able to come through the aperture very easily, versus when we come down like this, it has a lot more work to do, and there's a lot more of a chance that the note is not going to speak cleanly, because there is so much extra motion there. So I hope that you guys found these tips helpful. So just to review one more time, so the first thing is, let's air it out. Allow 90% air to really be what's driving the articulation, 90% air, 10% tongue. The second thing is, we're thinking just less surface area, volume. I swear to God, like getting my fingers lined up is like it's just always so weird with the camera being flipped like this. And so I was thinking smaller surface area is always more helpful to get that speed of articulation. I think it helps with the clarity too, because you're allowing more air to come through. And then thirdly, you can experiment a little bit with the anchor tonguing, or I don't know, I just call it letting the tongue rest behind the tip of the teeth down here. Just really allowing the air to come down the ramp of the tongue very easily and smoothly, and it makes it so that the air can come through the chops really easily, and it allows the notes to speak a little bit more easily and a little bit more cleanly. So, all right, you guys, I hope you found this helpful. If you are new to the group, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. It's great to always have new faces around. If you did like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the French Horn Rescue YouTube channel, and check out the other videos I have there. And most importantly, if you did find this helpful, please come to Tuesday's masterclass. And that is really where I'm going to dig into all the stuff that I teach my students that has really helped them to conquer their upper register, their endurance, and their accuracy issues. I will see you on my YouTube channel, and most importantly, I will see you on the masterclass on Tuesday evening. All right, guys, take care. Luke Dickow signing off.